Okay. Sorry, just a minute.
Apollo was the slide.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So in 1942, there were 33 Nepola schools, and among which only 3 were for girls. So they were divided as per gender. And the main conditions were that a person has to be racially flawless. They must not have any poor hearing or vision. The Nazis were very against handicapped persons. And anyone who was a part of the school must be having an above average intelligence, and that was tested for through a 8-day entrance exams. So all which we see about the school is true. About the conditions of entering the school is definitely true. And the Nepola schools were highly competitive. Any weakness was not tolerated. And but the brutal aspects of it, I assume, started after the war, because they wanted to train them to be their future soldiers, which they did become, in fact, in later on in the war. So most of the cadets, about 1/5 of the cadets, failed to meet the standards, or they sustained injuries in the training, or at least that's what was claimed, and they were sent back home. And towards the end of the war, it was these Nepola students were in fact sent into the war also. Most of them were fed with very wrong propaganda right from the beginning. So they were poorly trained and equipped, but they were highly motivated, and it was quite a challenge to fight them in the war, in fact. Okay, so the next part of it, which we see in the book, is the plundering of France's resources by the Germans. Before we go further, a few things which I want to emphasize on is that the Nazis' treatment of France, of occupied France, and also, in fact, is it clear for everybody?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, now we can hear.
Was it bad in between?
Yeah, just for a moment.
Oh, okay,
little,
okay, fine,
little.
fine. Okay, sorry. So, yeah. So Nazis' treatment of occupied France, and in fact, even the treatment of the bombing of the bombing in France is actually carried out by Americans, but Nazis did not destroy buildings over there. They did not really do anything much to destroy France. Of course, France did suffer. Occupied France suffered. There was extreme food rationing. They had shortages. There was black marketing, and all that was happening. But to a large extent, compared to what other nations underwent, I would say France did not suffer as much from Nazis as what most of the other countries have. So, but that said, what did they do and how did it proceed? Let's just have a look at that. So, Adolf Hitler was, of course, he was this unsuccessful artist. He was denied admission to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, but he considered himself as a connoisseur of the arts. So in Mein Kampf, his biography, he states that he ferociously attacks all modern art forms like Cubism, Futurism, and he favors classical portraits, the landscapes by the old masters, and particularly those of the Germanic origin. So these were the kind of paintings which enthralled him. So what happened was all the paintings and sculptures in German museums, which were of modern art or Cubism, or which did not have a realistic appeal to them, he actually removed all of them from the museum. So which was about roughly approximately about 16,000 paintings and sculptures. And in that, some 4,000, 5,000 of them, as what I've mentioned here, were publicly burnt. This was just similar to the book burnings which they did. So they publicly burned these drawings, prints, and paintings, and these sculptures too. and the remaining were just thrown out. So the ones which were thrown out, what they decided to do is they had this Degenerate art exhibition. So they felt it might be a good time to just sell these paintings and use that cost, use the money for their cause. But of course, these are being claimed as degenerate paintings. They are claimed as rubbish. So of course, nobody bought. And also people are scared to come forward and buy something like this. So these paintings were not sold, did not get sold at that time. However, there were these private art, art sellers and others in Germany who kind of picked up these and sold them abroad. So there were various they say crate loads of these paintings which were shipped off abroad to America and certain other countries, and these people profited from it. And after which now there's absolutely no idea of most of these paintings. In fact, the paintings which I've shown over here, the ones behind these two men who are who are walking over here, the two paintings here behind these men, they were very famous. The middle painting here was very famous, and all these paintings, though they can be seen in the images here, there's no idea what exactly happened to them, and they've not been able to spot them. So there's been this art restoration campaign which was conducted to find the rightful owners and give back the paintings, but there's only some amount of paintings which could be regained back. So this was on the right side image over here is a it's a poster for the exhibition, and it says Kunst, Kunst. That means art in Germany. But this particular font was used to show that it's scary and it's not really something that fills you with joy. So that's what they wanted to say when they advertised for the Degenerate art exhibition. So, of course, because most of the paintings in France were belonged to the earlier era, and it had all the old masters paintings over there. So there was a lot of appeal for Hitler and his cronies to get their hands on the French paintings. But there was this treaty which was there. Did I mention it? I wanted to write it somewhere. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. Okay, so there was this treaty which says that you cannot take the occupied countries' paintings and artworks outside the country. So how the Nazis came around this was they looted the artworks of the Jewish collectors. So most of the Jews had left France at that time, and most of them had tried to ship out their paintings and other valuable stuff out. So those who had done that, it was good for them. But those who had left back their things at home, and they had left only they had left. So what the Nazis said was those who had left France before the war, they've not stayed back and fought for France. So they were no longer considered as French citizens, and therefore their property could be seized. So the paintings and artwork which were seized were mostly of French Jews. And they started visiting the bank vaults of these Jews, and they took the paintings from there and also from the empty residences. The pieces left behind in the 15 largest Jewish-owned art galleries in Paris were also collected and transported in French police vans itself. And between 40 and 42, Goering, who is one of the most important persons in Nazi Germany, he traveled to Paris alone 20 times. And every time the art dealer Bruno Losey had a special, exhibition of the newly looted art objects for him. And in this 20 visits, Goering selected at least 594 pieces for his own collection. And he used to publicly boast that he owned the largest private art collection in Europe. Okay, so now what did they do and how did they save the most important, artworks which they had? So just before Germany could occupy France, the main director of the Louvre Museum, he knew that this is going to happen, this might happen. So immediately what he does is he closes the museum for 3 days, stating repairs. And at that time when the museum was closed, he immediately started hauling all the artworks out on trucks. There were 203 vehicles which transported 1,862 wooden cases out of the museum to Chote. I think it's pronounced as Chote di Chambon. And these crates, in fact, okay. So these crates had some markings to show the importance of the painting. And I think it was green was for just a normal painting, and yellow was for an important painting. Red meant it's a world treasure. It's a world heritage treasure and it's supposed to be preserved. And Mona Lisa was marked with 3 red circles. And the art pieces were kept moving. In fact, they were kept, changing from Chote to Chote. So, for example, the Mona Lisa was moved from Chambon to several castles and abbeys. And finally, it was found as the Musée Ingrès in Montabon. So, so that's how they preserved the paintings, and they were able to safeguard all their paintings. Okay, so before we go further, let me stop the screen share and
A big thank you.
yes.
As is the case, it was Dr. Giogo's background when you explained the printing of the particular novel.
Yeah.
Similarly, a lot of hard work and research must have gone into this preparation of this particular this 4 slides. Frankly, I am not aware of this Napoleon and other things. I read the book as a book. I didn't go to the background. I again thank you for that. It's really good. You referred to one book, madam, actually. That one student has gone there and he has written a diary. I wish
Yes.
actually share.
Surely, I'll
like to put it
definitely,
somewhere
definitely,
that is not possible. I would like to read that. And
definitely.
again, thank you for the wonderful work you have done. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's just like going down this, going down this internet hole. So I start one place and then read another, and then it just keeps taking me inside, and suddenly I land up in one of the websites where I can find these treasures, I think, little
Fine.
treasures.
Now, do you know what this sentence takes me to? It takes to that this sapphire where actually it is kept inside like that. It runs parallel to that particular. Maybe it is a
Yes.
metaphor. I don't know. Because that value will stone was 133 carat. It was stored like that. That his father, the museum caretaker or a locksmith actually.
Yes, locksmith.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want me to continue, or Suchi or Tulika, do you want to share anything?
No, continue. It's very interesting.
Okay, so fine. Okay. Fine. So as all of you must have seen, there were a lot of scientific references in the book. And initially, I was surprised. So I thought maybe Anthony Doerr comes from a science background, but then I realized he doesn't. He's learned history and MFA. So that's when I was quite surprised, how is it happening? And then I realized he's a huge fan of science books. So he reads a lot of popular science books. And in fact, he writes a column for the Boston Globe on science books, on reviewing science books, and he writes a column for them. And so he says that whenever I write a novel, rather than writing what I know, I write what I want to know. And I keep researching and finding out more about it. So he renders a lot of, meticulous scientific details in the book. We saw about, I think, how the brain works, and, about, of course, a lot about electromagnetic waves, about entropy, and it was quite fun. Of course, about birds also, a lot about birds, a lot about mollusks, about snails, and it's just peppered with this little facts and scientific information all through the book. So he also talks a lot about that snails, mollusks, sea, and branches of scientific inquiry into the natural world, which is something that he is very fond of. So to I just read a interview by him where he talks about this further. And so this is what he says on why he writes a lot about science in fiction. So he says science composes a whole host of ways to investigate the world, to probe mysteries, and the best scientists are comfortable working with uncertainty, operating in the unknown. This seems to me very similar to what fiction writers do. We find a thing, a person, a place, a feeling that we're vitally interested in, and we pursue that interest through language. So I don't see science and literature as separable entities, buildings that should be built on opposite sides of a college campus. I see them both as useful, even vital ways to try to understand what we're doing here in the frighteningly brief time we have. For me, the natural world is not something separate from the human world. The outside is not something we shuttle ourselves out into for an hour a day before hurrying back indoors to our hand sanitizer and indoor plumbing. We are the natural world and it is us. I think that's so beautifully explains how he has woven science into the story. We don't even realize it. Another interesting thing was the title of the book, All the Light We Cannot See. So before we see why he labeled it as such, I'd just like to talk about where he got the idea for the book. So he says that one day he just was in the New York subway, and he saw this man beside him who was desperately trying to send a message or something, and he was just clicking on his phone. And of course, they are about 80 feet below the ground, so he's not going to get a signal. So he's so frustrated and angry and clicking and banging his phone and all this stuff. And Anthony Doerr just says, I felt somewhat shocked. Does this man even realize what a wonderful thing it is that you have such a small micro transmitter in your hand and you're able to transmit a message somewhere so far away, and you're able to hear voices from so far away. And it's just that a little bit you're not able to hear to it now when you are in this underground, but you're getting so angry and frustrated at that device despite it being able to do such a wonderful thing for you. So that at that point of time, he got this idea of a boy being stuck somewhere and listening to, but he only has access to a radio, and he listens to the radio where he hears a girl reading out a story. So that's all was the starting idea thread that he had, and from that all the light we cannot see actually developed. So and also it was he also shares a very interesting anecdote on why he chose this particular seaside small town in France. So he visited Saint Malo at some point for some work, and he says that small town is so breathtakingly beautiful. He just falls in love with the city, and he just remarks to one of the residents there that this place is so beautiful, and that person responds saying that yes, and can you believe that this whole place was nearly flattened out by Americans during the bombing, and this is what it has come up after that. So that at that second he was just formulating the idea for All the Light We Cannot See, and when he visited this town, he realized this is exactly the place where my story must take place. So so the book, the title All the Light We Cannot See is a reference to all the light that we literally cannot see, which he means the wavelengths of the electromagnetic spectrum. And it's also a metaphor that there are countless invisible stories which are buried within the Second World War, like the story of the children whom we meet in this book. And he also wants to say that we spend too much time focused on only a small slice of the spectrum of possibility. So there's so much which is possible, but we seem to be, focused and, I would say even obsessed with some small portion of our own, what we want to do. And by the way, these, this interpretation of the title is something given by Anthony Doerr himself in his website. It's not my, it's not out of my thinking. Okay, now coming to the language and the structure, I think one beautiful thing of the book is the non-linear style. So it starts with the bombing, it goes to the past, it goes to the future. Initially, I was a little confused, but then I had to go back and see the, the dates mentioned. Then I realized, okay, so this is how it's flowing. So that non-linear style was very interesting in the way he brought it. And so the whole book is written in 200 little pocket chapters. And as a writer, Anthony Doerr says that he did it this way because it gave him a chance to make small, manageable miniatures that I could refine over months, then string together into strands to tell a story. So he says somewhere I used to get some half an hour here or 1 hour there, and I used to be able to write something, edit a small portion or do something. So it was a very manageable way to tell a story for me, is one thing which he says. And also, when he suspends one narrative, for a few pages, returns to the other, and then comes back to this, it creates a kind of momentum, and it also builds suspense. So this was also another reason why he did this. So for a reader, it also helps them to take a breath between chapters, especially because the book is quite big. And he says that it also helps the reader to see some white space and be able to let down for a moment before falling back in. And I think this was the reason why most of us could finish the book quite quickly. Okay, so another beautiful passage which I got from one of his interviews is where he's asked on why is World War II fiction so popular? Why are people, why do people keep on reading about it? And this is what he says. I think at a time of abundance, when I can walk 3 blocks from my desk and buy an avocado or 60 rolls of toilet paper, stories of scarcity are appealing because they remind us of the blessings that we have. Whether it's a scarcity of food and materials or a scarcity of freedom, just the freedom for you and I to listen to whatever music we want, or go see whatever films we would like to see, or walk to a bakery one way to be sure that we aren't taking our lives for granted is to read narratives from times when those freedoms were restricted. And I think that's so beautifully put. In fact, every time you read something about World War II, the first feeling which we get is this shouldn't happen again. We should make sure this doesn't repeat. So something which we are having right now, this democracy, this freedom, this ability to speak our minds is so precious. And I think reading these stories helps us to, it helps to remind us of that. So some discussion topics for today was, one of the things is the significance of the Sea of Flames jewel. Did they really have the real stone? What do you think? I would like to know. And also, is there any deeper meaning, to the stone? So what do you think? Do you think they really had the stone?
I answer it, madam. Actually.
They had it, right?
No, the point was actually the same question was asked to Doerr in one of his. He heard this BBC book club.
Okay, okay.
He was asked this particular question. Say, was it a fable about this sapphire 133 carats Sea of Flames? Or is it really there? How come you got this? Because you have compared a fable, if I take it this Sea of Flames stone, and the other side is reality. His answer was, as far as I know, there is one in the British Museum. That's what he said.
Oh.
I'm not pretty sure, but there is one in the British Museum. I had some information. Based on that, I have built up this theory of Sea of Flames and this Nazi, that colonel being very obsessed about having it so that he can have life of immortality. And for some, it is a curse actually. If they keep that stone, their relatives and those people will go die. But as far as the owner is concerned, he will continue to living. All those things that have come out of it. That's what his answer.
Oh, okay, okay.
And as far as, if I can quote, because you said about this style of writing. On that also, one of these listeners in this audience asked me, you tell us, when you wrote this story, whether you have written it in linear fashion and they made it non-linear to it. He said, no, I have written the book in the way the reader reads it. That's what he said. And I have taken 10 years to write this particular book. 10 long years. What you are saying, whenever you are stuck up actually, because there are a lot of mathematical, as you just touched actually, the geometry, triangular combinations, these permutations, that and about birds. Wherever he was stuck, he was saying actually, I was going too deep into the subject, collect the required information, and I have fashioned it in a non-linear fashion manner. That's what. There is, the way you read, that is the way I have written, like that he was saying. Thank you.
Very nice. Actually, I had this feeling that, about the stone, the person who has it stays alive, but the people around him die. So the person who has it has to choose money over the people around him. Could that be something, which could be metaphorical significance to the whole thing?
Very positive. But the point was actually how this Nazi officer could know about the stone and that he will become invincible if he can possess it. That somewhere I didn't find anywhere the clue. The nature of the stone was never explained.
Yeah. They only talk about one book, right, where he sees that this kind of a stone is present and all this stuff.
Yes, yes. But if you can, they have made 4 or 5 stones of similar type.
Yeah, correct.
The colonel actually eliminates one by one. He says, this is not original, that is not original. This is... Finally, gets stuck up with this stone. That is with our... that is the thing.
Correct.
This Mary, he says finally, that we do not know how he comes to the conclusion that the stone with Mary is the genuine one. That I could not make out anyway.
Correct. And so when Mary goes over there and she drops the that wooden house, right, inside the water. So he goes back, he takes the stone and throws it away, is it? And he puts the key, is it? That was also something which I was a little, confused about.
Very correct. It was also loose-ended. And the key actually Mary gives to Werner.
Yes, she gives him only the key.
That is true.
But I guess he went there, he took the stone, I guess, and he just threw it off. Must be. That's what I feel, because so Doerr writes that passage where the stone is in the water and among the pebbles and all that. So so it looks like the water, it's gone into the water, but now it looks like actually it's Werner who has thrown it into the water, and he kept back the house, I guess.
Yes.
But why would he throw the stone? That is what I don't understand. I mean, he didn't know anything about the stone.
Exactly.
I mean, it's such a pretty stone.
Yeah, that was the gray area. I read up the Goodreads also, the Q&A, and this is what everybody has said, that it's Werner who throws it. She doesn't throw it. She throws the house, right?
Correct.
Then he probably went back. He took out, he threw the stone, he put the key. But why would he throw the stone? He has no idea that we were talking about this. It's very unclear. Maybe he thought that because she has thrown it. So... I mean,
so in fact, I had also thought that, if maybe he had the stone in his bag, he dies in the landmine explosion. So maybe the stone just disappeared or went away. But then there was that chapter where Doerr talks about the stone being among the pebbles and all that in sea. So once again, that's not a possibility.
Right? If he has the stone, he can't die.
If you believe in the stone's power.
Oh yeah, totally.
What I felt was, because it was a fable, and the writer maybe perhaps wanted the magic to continue and the substance to continue, the mystery to continue. Fables normally are like that. They don't follow any logic. They don't have beginning, ending, and a conclusion. That's what I thought. They want to text in the sense of magic, suspense, and mystery in that particular story.
Or maybe I thought maybe he wanted to show him so pure of character. Then just like Mary throwing it off, he also doesn't care for riches or something. He threw it away.
His own life. Yes.
Yeah.
He was above all these silly, the greed, what we can say, life and other things.
No, I
Correct.
thought he should have kept it as a remembrance of Marie, like as a memory, because she was
Could be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he should have kept it, not
Because he is not aware of the curse about that
Correct.
stone. No,
Correct.
that is the thing. He's
Exactly.
not aware.
It seemed more logical. I somehow assumed in my mind that he'd keep the stone and so he'd not die. And then later on they do something with the stone. So I was very shocked when like the landmine happened. I was like, "Arey, how did this happen?" I was very upset when he died.
Maybe
it
Mary
was-
only threw the stone.
She throws the whole
No.
house, right? So
Yeah, she
No,
only gives him
maybe
the
she
key, right?
removed the stone. She removed the stone and then she threw this, and then also she kept the house there. Maybe.
yeah, yeah, that's the only explanation. He must have thrown it thinking that she has thrown it, so there is some reason to it, and he also, like respecting her wishes.
But
That's
then why
so
would
good.
he throw the stone? He should have just left the whole house there, no? Why did he collect the
Mm.
house?
That's another thing, because if he wanted to
Yeah.
respect her wishes, he shouldn't have
Correct.
taken the house too.
Right, he shouldn't have taken that. Yeah, that is a very gray area actually. That thing
Yeah,
is
yeah.
not clear at all.
Exactly. That is the mystery of the stone.
Yeah.
Right.
Because as I hear, actually, all 3 or 4 of us have drawn different conclusions about the mystic story, and it's important. That is the thing.
Yeah, right.
We have our own conclusion, actually.
Yeah.
I think over the period of 10 years, he wrote the book and maybe he just didn't realize that he's not clearing this issue.
But after I completed the book, I felt I had to read again to know particularly about the status of this stone. I felt it because it was loose-ended in the first reading. I could not put my hand on that.
Mm. Also, do they mention why was Mary's father arrested in Paris?
Yeah, on a suspicion. He was
What
No,
a
they-
suspicion,
because-
nothing. It's not told,
because
right?
he was
Clearly.
no, but on suspicion he was a locksmith, museum related, so they wanted.
That
So
seems
on,
logical.
they have not conclusively said he was arrested.
No, actually, that person who reported him saying that he is
Measuring
sketching the
and
that so
perfumer.
they must suspect it. Perfumer he
Okay,
reported to the authorities, no, that he's
Exactly.
sketching.
Okay,
So
okay,
they thought
okay.
maybe he's kind of
Some
like
spy or something like that.
exactly,
was
spy. That
he
is
was
what is.
taking measurements every time of the building of the area.
Correct,
That
And
is
they
why.
suspected.
That is why.
This fellow who was
Yeah.
working with the stools for Nazis, actually, he reported and they took him on suspicion.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Okay.
That was what.
Okay, let's move on to the next point. So another thing which I saw in the book was the search for little joys in all the characters, like nature, music, stories. So for instance, Madame Manet takes Mary out to the ocean after her father's disappearance. And somehow that being in the open air, being in the ocean, getting her feet wet, brings her out of the depression. Frederick listening to bird songs, despite however dire the situation is and how much bullying he faces, it's so sweet to see him, listen to the bird songs, identify the bird songs, and also Mary's father building the models to perfection. Though he never takes her out, he keeps building these models of what is it out like outside. So in his mind, he's not going to take her out at all. He's going to keep her inside. But at the same time, he's building models for her to know the place around. So, which was also a very, I think that was some way in which he found, found himself grounded and found himself doing something. Even the person in that head of that Hitler youth camp, the Volkheimer, or the big Hulk-like character.
Volkheimer,
Yeah. But he has a fondness for music. And when Mary plays the music, so Werner keeps the earphones in his head. And once he listens to that, he in fact risks bombing the place itself so that they can get their freedom and get out of their where they are stuck and get into fresh air. So I think somewhere that music played triggers that reaction in him. Again, though it was so dangerous to just transmit the codes itself, after some time, Etin started playing music also in the radio for others. This could risk him getting caught, but that was some kind of a small pleasure which he gets from it. And even in the end, Mary is not just, reading out, she's reading out her novel into the radio. She's not just telling, I need help or someone is here or something like that. I thought that was also a very a touching, a very different way in which people react to the, I think somewhere there is a search for these kind of little pleasures, despite whatever is happening around them.
Even Jatta and the kids would listen to music when he first finds the radio.
Correct.
Initially in the orphanage, then
Yes.
also they are listening to music.
Yeah. Jatta also, when she is going to France towards the end of the book, where she goes to the museum, she meets, I thought it was kind of sweet that she brought her kid along.
At the end, actually.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was very sweet.
Yeah. So somewhere she wants him to know about the truth also. So somewhere she wants him to understand this is where she was and this is how it was. It's a part of her history. I think all those, I think, were very sweetly brought out.
But she wasn't in France, right?
That she was in France. She was in that.
She was in Germany.
She was in
goes
Germany,
to
right?
Germany, actually. So she goes to Germany, then visits the place.
No, she comes to France. She
France
comes
also,
to look
no?
for Marie. No?
Yeah, very.
From
Saint Malo, then Paris.
From Germany to France,
Correct.
she visits.
Correct. So
No,
this is when that handicapped person she meets on the train also happens at that during that travel.
No, but before this, she doesn't spend any time in France. So she
no. Her housekeeper she used to talk in French and all that. No, that.
So maybe
she had some French connection.
She was the orphanage
whatever housekeeper मैं बोल रही. I mean that is orphanage का that lady caretaker for her or whatever. Bas, bilkul, that
so
lady.
I think she wanted her child to see Werner's where Werner spent time there. So I think that's the thing, because personally she has no memory, as in no connection, so to say.
No connection. No, nothing with France as such.
Correct. I meant history in the sense the family's history to that place is what
connection.
Connection to that place.
Yeah.
And though she's going for something so serious, I think she brought her kid along, which is something like a little pleasure for her, a little joy that she is bringing into her thing also. I even Mary, she has that she makes a remark right somewhere towards the end where she talks about like it's our children which are once again filling us with hope or something like that. Do you remember that passage?
No, I do not. What was it?
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah,
I'll get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1 second. Okay. So another interesting topic is about entropy. I don't know if you remember this. There is a chapter called Entropy, and where there's a lecture being taken on entropy. So entropy is this concept in physics, which is about the measure of uncertainty or randomness in a system. So I'm not very good with this, so I'm not going to try a lot to explain it. So it's something about how it's a concept in thermodynamics. Just 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. So there's this concept in physics where I think not all energy gets transferred or something like this. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, I'm bad in this, but it's something about a measure of uncertainty or randomness in a system. And entropy says that there will always certainly be some randomness in any system. So there's this very interesting passage where just a second, sorry, once again. Yes. So sorry, I was trying to locate my copy of the book. I can't find it. Okay. So, so in this particular thing, so there is a lecture which takes place where he asks, does anyone know what's an entropy? And then Werner finally answers that it's a measure of uncertainty or randomness in a system. And then the lecturer gives a long lecture where he talks about how the entire purpose of Nazis and the Nazism is to bring order to chaos, and that they want to order the evolution of the species, and how this is, you know, the greatest project undertaken by the Nazis. And after all, you know, he goes on and on and on about this. He turns to the blackboard and starts teaching the physics concept of entropy. And this is what he writes in the board. You know, he says the entropy of a closed system never decreases. Every process must by law decay. So this is the actual physics concept. So actual physics concept is that this randomness, this uncertainty is not something which can be removed from any system. This will never decrease also. It will only either stay the same or it's going to only keep increasing. And any process in the future at any point, at some point of time, will definitely decay. So I thought the author had very cleverly brought out the concept of entropy. And after lecturing all about, you know, the Nazism's great, project on trying to bring order to chaos, and how life is chaotic, and how there's this intermingling of species, and they want to create this pure blood. And after talking about all that, the actual physics law comes in, which says, I think somewhere cleverly the author is trying to say that this is flawed. You know, your whole idea of trying to bring order into chaos, or trying to order the evolution of species or something, this whole thing is, is completely, okay, finally I got my copy of the book. So yeah.
I also traced that actually.
Yeah. It's on the page 240, I think, of the book.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So where the person says, you know, life is chaos, gentlemen, and what we represent is an ordering to that chaos, even down to the genes. We are ordering the evolution of the species, winnowing out the inferior, the unruly, the chaff, and all that stuff. And then he turns to the blackboard, and he writes, the entropy of a closed system never decreases. Every process must by law decay. And I think and with that, the chapter ends. So I think somewhere the author has tried to say that it's such a fundamental flaw to the complete idea that you are going to order chaos. Chaos cannot be ordered at all. And it also reminded me of this beautiful dialogue which comes in Jurassic Park. So when the scientists reach Jurassic Park and they question, you know, on how are you going to control life? How can you do all this? This is very dangerous or something. And then he says, you know, no, all the dinosaurs which you find in Jurassic Park are actually female, and there's no breeding of dinosaurs. So we control the population of the dinosaurs. We are going to be making sure that all are females. So there's no chance of, you know, the dinosaurs breeding in the wild or something. So we are controlling everything. And then one of the scientists, he says, life will find a way. You know, so how much ever you try to bring order to something like a human species, or, by removing out the Jews or whatever they were trying to do at that point of time, it's not going to happen. Life will find a way. I know that I don't know, somehow I think certain parts of this book really appealed to me so much, and I was stuck in reading and rereading them many times, and I think I'm boring you all also with that.
No, I think it was the same for all of us. No. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is a very immersive reading. Just you cannot forget it.
Yes.
There's so much subtleness in it actually. Unless until you go back and reread it, you can't feel the real punch of what the author wants to say. That's what I felt. It is very electrifying language.
True. Yeah, the language, the way he has written is, the metaphors he uses, the way he forms his sentence, everything.
Exactly. Yeah, true. The story is not required. The writing.
Exactly. The story is just one part of it.
Yeah. The story is simple actually. Wartime story. We have read many number of wartime stories. But having it examined through the eyes of a children in an innocent and imaginative way, that keeps the book different. And the language is brilliant actually. So, language and the structure, it is something different. That's what I felt. And the chapters are mini, not big chapters. And as Madam has said, we could complete very easily this time. Maybe that has left her with adequate time to research and bring out facts that we do not know, rather I do not know.
Yeah, I got that other passage also, the one which I was talking to you about, where Jata and Mary talk towards the end, and so there's this funny conversation with her son, where his son walks in and he's having this conversation with Francis, and he comes in and they are laughing, and that's the time when Mary remarks, it's the obliviousness of our children that saves us. So
obliviousness.
Obliviousness of our children that saves us.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. I think there are so many such passages. In fact, it's not just this one. My whole book is just filled with markings. I saw Tulika's was like that too.
Yeah. I put those sticky notes.
Yes. So I also, again, the same thing with quotes. There were so many. I just shared a few. Maybe there's something more you all want to add. Please do. So this is when Frederick says to Werner, your problem, Werner, is that you still believe you own your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so beautifully said in so little words.
So in the previous slide, you have listed out 6 characters actually. Of all the people, I was very much drawn to Frederick.
True.
A character, very imaginative, idealistic. He is after birds, and he is subject to so ruthless a treatment. He becomes a vegetable and invalid at the end. So much sympathy he carries when you read actually. But Frederick character was really good. Apart from our there is Werner and Mary, but third character I was most drawn towards was Frederick.
True, definitely. He it's so difficult to for anyone to read about him and not feel a pang. I think
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was so idealistic. He was so, even then he never
so innocent and so simple, and
and when he goes, and his mother also, the way it gets treated. Really, thank you.
Don't you want to be alive before you die? Madam Mennick, when she tries to convince Etienne to send the radio signals.
Messages to become a messenger.
Yeah, and also I loved how the author had shown, Madam Mennick as how she feels young and so full of energy when she's helping in the revolution. Her whole character changes.
She becomes doubly energetic.
Correct.
That's what I also found. Perhaps it is a passion for the cause, whatever you call it. That brings in an additional energy. Once you are committed to a purpose, there is an additional passion in it.
True. Is it right to do something only because everyone else is doing it?
This was a good one.
This was a very good one.
Inspiring.
Open your eyes and see what you can with them before they close forever.
This was by Sunday whom like to open it.
What did you say, Shamil Ravji?
Who has said this quote, I was saying?
I think this comes somewhere in the beginning of the book. I have to again go back and see.
There is a chapter, open your eyes. That was I was trying to recollect.
Oh, okay.
Open your eyes and see what you can see
before they close forever. Oh, I'm not sure if this was when she was losing her sight. Is it before that? I forgot.
Maybe.
I forgot when did I read the...
It is a 56 around the 60th page. That means before.
Yeah. And this was the letter Werner wrote. I have been feeling very clear-headed lately, and what I want to write about today is the sea. It contains so many colors: silver at dawn, green at noon, dark blue in the evening. Sometimes it looks almost red, or it'll turn the color of old coins.
If you excuse me for the interruption, madam, I got this quote.
Oh,
Open
yes.
your eyes. Open your eyes. The Frenchman on the radio used to say, and see what you can with them before they close forever. Maybe
Correct,
it is
The
correct.
ATM.
broadcast.
Maybe
Yeah.
That is the
it is a,
broadcast. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
exactly.
okay.
Maybe
Correct,
it is
correct,
at 10,
correct.
maybe it is at 10 he might have said it actually. Because
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, the last couple of lines in this, I think in this quote was very beautiful. It is my favorite thing I think that I have ever seen. Sometimes I catch myself staring at it and forget my duties. It seems big enough to contain everything anyone could ever feel. And when she goes to Saint Malo and she looks at the sea, Jetta recalls his words again. You know, the greatest lesson of history, it's that history is whatever the victors say it is. That's the lesson. Whoever wins, that's who decides the history. We act in our own self-interest. Of course we do. Name me a person or a nation who does not. The trick is figuring out where your interests are. This was right in the beginning, I think. It was when the person comes to their orphanage and he gives that hair sidler or something. It's in page number 84. Uh, no. It's in that, I think when he goes to repair the radio. Yes. And the maid brings in the cake and all that stuff and he gives a talk about, you remember that scene?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where
Because
this person who tells him, yeah.
the German colonel's radio breaks down and this man is taken
Yes.
to have it repaired. And he
Yeah.
sits on the floor, he repairs it, he'll be observing that. Exactly.
Yeah. So he first starts like we act in the interest of peace. And Werner remembers that he heard these same words on the radio just a few days back. And he repeats the same thing. And then he says, oh, it's the greatest lesson. It's the whatever the victors say it is and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. How do you know for certain that you are doing the right thing? Again, this is something Werner thinks to himself. How do you ever know for certain that you are doing the right thing? It's embarrassingly plain how inadequate language is.
This was a very touching.
Yeah, very touching. And I think so beautifully put. It's true. It's inadequate. Language is so inadequate, I feel.
Exactly. But despite that, look at the precision of the writer. Actually. How beautifully put.
Then okay, a line comes back to Mary Law from the Jules Verne. I think this was also very beautiful. Science, my lad, is made up of mistakes, but they are mistakes which it is useful to make because they lead little by little to the truth. So Anthony Doerr was a huge fan of Jules Verne, as it is obvious from the book, and he's also a huge fan of Virginia Woolf. When I lost my sight, Werner, people said I was brave, but it is not bravery. I have no choice. I wake up and live my life. Don't you do the same? So she asks Werner, and he says, not in years, but today maybe I did. That was also, I think, very beautifully put. Every hour she thinks, someone for whom the war was memory falls out of the world. This is again Mary thinking about the past. I think this is when she is with her grandson, right? Towards the end. What the war did to dreamers. I think this was when they were, when Werner was thinking of Frederick. So how, children, does the brain, which lives without a spark of light, build for us a world full of light? This comes in the radio. So when in the radio broadcast, when they hear Werner and Jetta. Yeah. So I think with this, I'm going to stop because there's actually too many quotes, but I thought I'll stop with this. Okay.
But why did the writer keep that love story between brother and Mary? So brief. Because all along the story, they will be moving in parallel lines, if you hear. they meet at a particular point, maybe they think the meeting point. Something so brief, actually, it hurts. And then they get separated.
They were too young also, right? For I think.
Okay,
yeah, it was hardly a love story. It was just two parallel
very
stories.
good, very good. Let me put it what Doerr replied in the BBC interview.
Sure.
Same question was asked actually. Why he kept that love story so brief? What he said was, life is like that. And I can't be cinematic in saying actually it is all everything ends in positivity. That's not possible. Like in cinema or that type of thing, they are not story. I wanted to bring it realistic in a wartime environment. Actually, things are like that. That is life.
In fact, I read a few of his interviews, and in one of them, another one where he remarks about the briefness of time. So he says, let's assume that we live for another 40 years and that we read one book every week. Even then, we are read only hardly another 2000 books. And there's so much more left, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is something we talk about many times. Like there's so many books to read, so many. It's like overwhelming sometimes that we won't be able to read even like 1/50th or 1,000th of what we want to read.
Yeah.
So many books to read and so little time left.
Absolutely.
True.
And I have very little time to learn.
No.
So that is the thing. Because I joined anyway. It's a good book you have chosen. Next one will be Americana.
Yes.
And that I have to begin.
I think hereafter, maybe if there is some book which is as good as this one and someone recommends it, even if it's a modern classic, I think we should go ahead
and
read
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
We should go for it actually.
Yeah.
No issue.
We've done two modern classics like this one and Remains of the Day, and they both have been beyond excellent. They have been really, really good. So
yes. I, in fact, wanted to, I was really hoping that you all would choose The Lives of Others, which didn't get chosen, but it's one of the books which I read long back. And when it was shortlisted for Booker, it's written by an Indian author.
Neil Mukherjee, no?
Neil Mukherjee.
Yeah,
so
I've read that.
Oh, you've read that? Did you like it?
Yeah, I have it with me.
Archana, you should put the books that we don't choose back into
exactly.
They're all good books. Like often they just so you should just recycle them. The ones that once you've not chosen,
right.
Put them back in the poll of the
till you choose it, is it, Tulika?
So that is true as well, but we don't miss out on some of the good books just because they were in a poll with other better or whatever equally good books.
So that's what happened to Neil Mukherjee's book, in fact. So when it was shortlisted for the Booker, there were all the other books which were shortlisted were also very good. And I think The Narrow Road to Deep North was also shortlisted at the same time, and which went on to win the Booker. But probably if there were not such good contestants, I'm very sure Lives of Others would have won. It was very and excellently written and very beautifully, depicts the characters.
So good.
Okay, so good. So we have our next read ready.
Americana. Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So happy New Year to you all.
Bye.
Just a minute.
Wish you happy New Year to you all.
Yes, happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And we finished 15 books. So we're going to start the new year with our 16th book. I'm so excited. I can't believe, it's been so great to be able to read such wonderful books with all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.